Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the English translation of the Majlis of Hazrat Maulana Qamar Uzzaman Saheb Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Saturday morning at about 9:30 a.m. at Baitul Azkar, the residence of Hazrat Wala in Wasiabad, Allahabad, UP, India. Saturday, the 22nd of Jumadul Ula, 1444, corresponding with the English date 17th of December 2022. Hazrat Wala starts off this majlis by quoting the ayat of the Quran Majid, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ وَمَا تُنْفِقُوا مِنْ شَيْءٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِهِ عَلِيمٌ. Now yesterday we were speaking about some few points. Now I was thinking of establishing that there and strengthening it by quoting ayat of the Quran Majid. I was reading them from the tafsir of Mufti Taqi Usmani, written very clearly and very boldly in big words, so it makes it easier for people like me at this age to read. Now in that tafsir there of Mufti Taqi Usmani, he writes that my father has written well on this particular ayat, So I open up and I have in front of me Tafsir Ma'ariful Quran Shafi'i. Now in the previous verse, it was said that charity from the disbelievers and deniers was not accepted with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this verse, believers have been told about acceptable charity and the etiquette governing it. So here Hazrat Wala is saying Iman is shart. Iman is a prerequisite. Otherwise you can do what you want, how you want, where you want. Nothing is accepted if it is not coupled with Iman and belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So lan tanalul bir. Now commentary, let us first understand what is bir and what it really signifies, so that the whole sense of the verse becomes clear in our minds. The literal and real meaning of the word bir is the perfect fulfillment of someone's rights. It is also used in the sense of charity, performance of good deeds and nice conduct. Now the word bar and bar is used for a person who fulfills fully and totally all rights due on him. The expression wabarram biwalidati, good to my mother, or wabarram and wabarram biwaliday, good to his father and mother, has been used in the Quran. In this very sense, it has been used there as a personal attribute of the Anbiya who fulfill the rights to their parents fully and perfectly. Now, the plural form of this word bar is abrar, which has been used frequently in the Quran. It has been said, Innal abrara yashrabuna min ka'sin kana mizajuha kafura. Here in the Khanqa, I am talking about here in Gujarat, a person came and he said and he mentioned that I made tremendous type of zulm on my parents. Make dua to Allah that He forgives me. The Shariat and the Deen is so beautiful and so complete. It even tells you about the rights due to parents even after their demise. Okay, now they passed away. While they're alive, this is what you do. And when they pass away also, then keep ta'alluq and good relations and be good to the ones that they were good, that they associated with, their friends, etc. So the Sahabi comes and he asks that now my parents have passed away. Now what do I do? Immediately Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives the answer, and this is our deen. So complete, so perfect, so in order, murattab. If they've passed away, then you do this. If this happens, then you do that. In Adabul Mufrad, Imam Bukhari and Ibn Majah, and in Ibn Majah and in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, it has been reported that Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala an, from him, that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, stick to speaking the truth, because the truth is a companion of birr and righteousness, and both these are in Jannah, and abstain from lying, because that is a companion and a sati of fujur and sins, and both of these are in hell. Allahu Akbar. Now Hazrat Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala an, he used to be in solitude and alone, and he would hold his tongue and he would say that you have led me to the doors of destruction. You have led me to destruction. Now tell me, is this not sirat-e-batini? Is this not some beautiful characteristics and akhlaq dealing with the internal? Hai jaan-e mohabbat, agar wo khafa hai. If he is angry, your teacher, your ustad, your sheikh, your parent, your senior, hai jaan-e mohabbat, agar wo khafa hai. Agar hum khafa, to mohabbat nahi. And if we are upset, if we are angry, then there is no love in that relationship whatsoever. How can we be upset? How can we be upset towards them or angry towards them in any way? Now this is the ta'aleem which is in Bukhari Sharif. ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر. Now this birr and righteousness is not that you turn your faces to the east and west, but righteousness is that one believes in Allah and the last day, ila akhiril ayah. So this is the ta'aleem of Bukhari Sharif. Masnad tak na rakho. Don't keep this confined to that seat where the ustad is sitting and teaching Bukhari Sharif. Neither keep it confined to a majlis or to the classroom. Rather, aage barhao, take these teachings and the ta'aleem and spread it out through the world. There is so much of akhlaq, there's so much of adab, there's so much of ta'aleem that is mentioned in Bukhari Sharif. There's an interesting waqia that Hazrat quotes of Imam Bukhari. He left his home, he makes safar until he reaches his destination, where he reaches this muhaddith from whom he wants to take a hadith. And then he sees him and he's holding some type of a bag in his hand, by means of which he's trying to entice, rather call or attract the attention of the horse, so that the horse can come towards him and then quickly he can get hold of the reins of the horse. So he asks and he sees that this person has no grass. He has no fodder and chara. Bechara hai. He doesn't have it with him. Immediately, Imam Bukhari then becomes distracted, rather annoyed, that how can I take hadith from a person who is giving doka and trying to fool and deception to a horse? Allahu Akbar. So, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ, that you shall never attain righteousness until you spend from that which you love. From that you love. And whatsoever you spend, Allah Ta'ala is fully aware of this. Now the most beloved thing to you is your nafs. You need to spend that nafs. You need to make this nafs believe and understand. This nafs needs to bow down and humble itself. Das takabbur, ananiyat, self-conceitedness, all has to come out. So here, mimma tuhibbun, that you will never reach, never ever attain piety until you spend from that which you love. You don't have to spend all that which you love, but rather that mimma and min is tab'iziyah, even a portion of it, even some amount of it. Allahu Akbar. Ye nukta ki baat hai, which I heard from Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab. So, likulli shay'in zakatun wa zakatul ilm al-wa'z. Everything has a zakat, and the zakat of knowledge is wa'z, and to pass this knowledge on. Ni'mal mal al-salih lil-rajul salih. The best type of good wealth is for a good person, and a goodly person, a saintly person. So both ways, when that wealth comes in the hands of a saintly person, that wealth also becomes now good. And okay, let's continue. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab used to even say regarding these type of ayat, he used to say that Maulvi usko bayan nahi karte. The alim doesn't speak about this out of the fear that the onlooker in the third person, rather the audience listening to it, might think that he's saying this here because he wants money. So then people would make an allegation and an accusation against him. But Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab used to make bayan of all these different types of ayat, and he left nothing out. So this person, this buzruk, calls in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "Oh Allah, how do I reach you?" And from the hatif-e ghaibi, the voice comes from the unseen, "Da'in nafs wa ta'al." Abandon the nafs. Trample upon the nafs. Stand on that nafs. Go against that nafs. Wa ta'al, and come. You will reach. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab used to always say that here it seems as there are two steps. Da'in nafs is one, and wa ta'al is another. But he used to say that if you leave the nafs, there's nothing else to do. You have reached Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the ta'aleem. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. The one who suppresses his anger, the one who forgives people, وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves the good doers. Drink water, make wudu, Allahu Akbar. So, speaking about spending, so we speak about miserliness also. The miserly one does not even want to give that which is all torn and broken. Rather, he wants to take it with him into the grave, and there it will become fire for him. Hazrat Mufti Shafi Sahab, have a look at it, it is all written. In the end, he would used to also look at a pyali, a simple cup that was there in the room, and he would say, "Take this, take it away. I'm going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now. Are you going to put this here into the inheritance? Are you going to do that?" This was the concerns of these people. So after giving a list of good deeds in this verse, all of them have been classed as bir, righteousness. Now the subject verse also tells us that of the wide range of righteous deeds, the most preferred form of righteousness is to spend the most cherished thing or things in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The verse further tells us that you can never claim to have righteousness unless you spend out of what you hold most dear. Thus the meaning is that the perfect fulfillment of the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a total self-unburdening from it cannot come to pass unless we spend in the way of Allah what we hold dear to our hearts. This very perfect fulfillment of due rights has also been translated as perfect good, or excellence in doing good, or great merit. To sum it up, the sense here is that entering the ranks of the Abrar depends on sacrificing in the way of Allah that which one holds dear. Now the enthusiastic obedience, we can understand it from the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, who were the first addressees of the Quranic injunctions and the direct disciples of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They really loved to carry out the injunctions of the Quran in letter and in spirit. When this verse was revealed, each one of them surveyed as to what they loved the most of what they had. Consequently, requests started coming before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that these be spent in the way of Allah. Sayyidina Abu Talha radiyallahu ta'ala an was the richest person amongst the Ansar of Medina. He was the owner of a fruit farm located across the Masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It had a well called Birha. Now, in place of this farm, there is in front of Bab al-Majidi, a building known as Istifa Manzil, where pilgrims in Medina used to stay. But in a corner northeast from it, this Birha still exists by the same name. Rather, you just pick up the mat and you can see that. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to visit this farm once in a while and drink water from Birha. He liked the water from this well. This farm belonged to Sayyidina Talha radiyallahu ta'ala an, and it was very precious, fertile, and the dearest of all he owned. After the revelation of this verse, he presented himself before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, I hold Birha, the dearest of all that I own. I wish to spend it in the way of Allah. I request you to use it for whatever purpose you like. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that farm is a high yield property. I think it is appropriate that you distribute it amongst your kith and kin, your near and dear ones. Abu Talha radiyallahu ta'ala, accepting the suggestion made by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, distributed it amongst his relatives and cousins. Now this is mentioned in Bukhari and Muslim. This hadith also tells us that charity is not restricted to spending on the poor and needy, but it is equally charitable and meritorious to give it to one's own family and relatives. Now, the building and the well have now been demolished due to the extension of Masjidun Nabawi. Now, Zayd bin Haritha radiyallahu ta'ala an came with a horse and said that he loved it more than anything else he owned, and he wanted to spend it in the way of Allah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted it, but after having taken it from him, he gave it to his son, Sayyidina Usama. Zayd bin Haritha radiyallahu ta'ala was somewhat disappointed about that, thinking that his charity has found its way back into his own home. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam comforted him by saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has accepted this charity of yours. Umar radiyallahu ta'ala also had a slave girl, a bondmaid, that he liked the most. He freed her for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the similar is reported from Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala. In short, the gist of the ayah under discussion is that the complete fulfillment of the rights of Allah, the perfect good and excellence in doing good, can be achieved only when a person spends something out of his dearest belongings in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, worthy of our attention and retention are some of the following highlighted aspects in this particular verse. Now, the word bir in this verse is inclusive of all charity, whether they are faraz or voluntary. Number one, first of all, this verse motivates spending in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some commentators take this verse to mean that of which is wajib, your zakat, while others take it to be that of nafal. But according to the consensus of the respected muhakkikeen and researchers in the field, it has been established that its sense is general and includes both types of charity. Then they are recorded actions of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as cited above, which bear witness that these charitable initiatives were taken, which were taken by them, were voluntary. Okay, also we learn that it appears from this ayat that the poor people who did not have much to spend will be remain deprived of great good and the righteousness mentioned here in this particular ayat. It is because what has been mentioned here in this verse, that this great good cannot be achieved without spending one's cherished belongings, while the poor and the needy just do not have anything through which they could reach the station of righteousness. But a little deliberation would show that the verse does not mean that those who wish to have great good and great merit cannot achieve that by any other means other than that of spending out of their cherished possessions. Contrary to that, the fact is that the great good can be achieved by some other means as well, like ibadat, dhikr, tilawat of the Quran, abundance of nawafil. Therefore, the poor and needy can also become the recipients of this great good through other means, as has been mentioned and explained in other narrations. Now, another verse of the Quran tells us that something liked and loved means that the thing is working for him and that he needs it, not that it should, not that it be spare and useless. Meaning, Rasulullah, the Quran says, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ, which means that they favored the favored servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala feed the poor although they need it themselves. Similarly, in yet another verse we learn وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. The favored servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prefer others over their own selves, even if they need it themselves. So spending extra and the spare too is not devoid of merit. So Allah Ta'ala is well aware of what we spending. وَمَا تُنْفِقُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِهِ عَلِيمٌ. And whatsoever you spend, Allah Ta'ala is fully aware of it. Hazrat Wala also speaks about an incident that there was a person who used to do the cleaning up and the sweeping in our own masjid, in our masjid here. And afterwards we came to note and to learn about, we learned, they were the Sahabi, Abu Talha radiallahu ta'ala is told to spend it amongst his own relatives. So here also what we learn from this particular incident where Hazrat Wala is quoting here, that the person was in such need, but he was the uncle of the most prominent and the most rich person in the entire town. Allahu Akbar. Maulana Mustafa Sahib used to speak there in the Darul Uloom London. He also mentioned to us that we think about these people being cultured, this, that or the other. No ways, not at all. Rather, if both father and son are extremely hungry and then food comes, the son will take the food and eat all the food and he will not give the father anything to eat. That this is what type of abhorrent character these people possess. Whereas the salient feature of Muslims is ithar, giving preference to the next person over yourself. The person who called Hazrat Sheikh Zakaria the first time, he called him to London and to Europe, to UK. He was not well, so we went to the hospital to go and see him. And there was an old lady that was there also in one of those cubicles in the hospital. And when she see all these people coming, huge groups of people coming, she asked that what's happening, who are these people? And she is told that they have all come to visit a sick person. She's so taken aback. She's saying, is this how it is? Is this how it works? Because I have been sick and ill for so long, but right up till today, my own son has not come to visit me. Allahu Akbar. Hazrat Wala even speaks about an incident that Maulana Ismail Bhuta quotes, and he says that they were there on one occasion, that I think it was in the aircraft, if I'm not mistaken. And this lady is asking those attendants that I left from where, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and can I have some food? And they say, but it's not yet time for food. Nevertheless, he brought his own food from home and he opened up his parcel, and the khushbu from there, you can imagine the aroma of that food. Nevertheless, he gave it to this lady to eat. She started eating, she was extremely hungry, and he gave her more also, saying to her that keep this also, you may need it. Keep this also, you may need it. Nevertheless, when these people seen this, now the story was a different story now. Now it was a battle between Islam and Christianity. Quickly they came and they said, no, what do you want? We'll also give you this and we'll also give you that. Because now they were understanding that they didn't want to give initially. And now a Muslim person came along and he comes forward and he gives. Now all of a sudden they want to come and they want to give. So they start making khushamad, take this here, okay, don't worry about this and don't worry about that. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Hazrat Wala is quoting, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was eating some corn. He was extremely hungry on one occasion. A Sahabi brought some corn. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam just sat down to eat it when a poor person came along and he says, I'm hungry. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, gives that corn to the person, and he goes, he takes it. And what happens thereafter? What happens thereafter is the Sahabi that brought it was extremely sincere. He goes into the market, he purchases it, and he brings it to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And then this person comes along a second time, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam sits down to eat it. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam gives it over to him. This happens over and over again until Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, what type of a beggar is this type of person? Immediately Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was given ta'aleem rather admonished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ, and the beggar, do not rebuke him. Now what ta'aleem was this? This was the ta'aleem to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Is this ta'aleem not for me? Is it not for you? You know, on one occasion, there were certain people at a certain place and they were reading and they were discussing about spending in the way of Allah. And a beggar came by and he begged and he asked from them and they told him to go. And someone came and they told him to go. And another person, we're talking about ghair and non-Muslims, saying, what's happening here? What are these people talking and discussing? And he was told they're talking about spending. And he says, what is this person coming for? He says he's begging. He was confused that you people are talking about this, but you're not practicing on it. Some people, they wouldn't even give space or allow a person to come and eat even at the time of breaking fast. Allahu Akbar. What can I tell you about the Dastarkhan and the table spread in Gujarat? You know, you should come. But listen, I won't give you the money. Hazrat Wala is addressing one of the attendants in the Majlis. He says, you should come. But listen, I won't give you the money to come. However, when you come there and you reach and you sit, when you're leaving, I'll give you the money to come back. So this is the beautiful ta'aleem and the adab which was given to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And may Allah Ta'ala give us the tawfiq and the hidayat of adopting and implementing these type of adab, etiquettes, ta'aleem in our life. Hazrat Tanvi, how he used to give sadaqah. It's written in the kitabs. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab, if anybody used to get sick in the house, immediately he would take out 10 rupees. I'm talking about 10 rupees back in the day, which is equal to 100 or 200 rupees today. Immediately he would give it in sadaqah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq and the hidayat of making amal. Allah Ta'ala keep us steadfast on our deen. And Allah Ta'ala give our children also, our progeny, the tawfiq and the hidayat of being steadfast on deen. And we should also teach them already from now how to spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how to give sadaqah. We should give in front of them. Rather, we should give it to them and say to them, you give it. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ بِحُرْمَةِ سَيِّدِ النَّبِيِّ الْكَرِيمِ صلى الله عليه وسلم.